Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. I'm going to be listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by the fine folks of Mission Fed Credit Union, 60-plus years, doing great things in the community, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's working with Alzheimer's Association, the homeless, arts, financial literacy. Just pick a major cause, and I guarantee you they'll be with you shoulder to shoulder. Thrilled to have back in, speaking about Alzheimer's Association of San Diego, Imperial Chapter. Honored to have Ron Lewis, the board chair, in the house. How you doing, Ron?
I'm doing well, Drew. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, same here. Good to be back.
Of course. Joined by Courtney Pendleton, Public Relations and Community Manager for Mission Fed Credit Union. Full disclosure, I think I've known Courtney for 6 million years, and she's not that old as well. But obviously, Mission Fed is knee-deep with the Alzheimer's Association. How you doing, Courtney?
Doing well. Thanks so much. Great to be back on.
I love having you on as well on this. And then joined by my guest co-host, Stella Dillon. She's doing a curiosity ship with Cloudcast Media. And for our listeners, they know what that means. We don't use the word internship. It's curiosity ship. She's a sophomore at NYU, and she has done this will be her 6th co-host podcast. She started with 0 before today, and she's just killing it. Yes, standing ovation would be a very, very appropriate. And Stella has a question for Ron.
Yeah, so what is the mission of your organization?
Yeah, so the great question. So our mission is really to, help, the community understand what Alzheimer's is, and it leads the way in, trying to find cures, accelerating global research, driving risk reduction, and early detection, as well as maximizing care and support for our family members and those that are dealing with Alzheimer's.
Right, and then we always do this, Ron, just for our listeners, so they can delineate the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's. Is Alzheimer's a part of dementia or vice versa?
It is a part of dementia. Dementia is the overarching umbrella, and there are very distinct categorizations for different forms of dementia, and of which Alzheimer's happens to be one of them.
Right. Now, why is this field near and dear to your heart?
Yeah, so back in 2013, my mother was diagnosed with vascular dementia, and which eventually progressed to full Alzheimer's dementia. And so it really was a pivotal point in my life where I had no idea what Alzheimer's was, what dementia was essentially, and how was I supposed to care for my mother who was aging. She was in her late 60s at the time, and I lived here in San Diego. She lived in Georgia. So how am I supposed to care for my mother who's aging, and the signs of dementia have really set in, and I didn't have a place to go, so I reached out to the Alzheimer's Association here in San Diego, and they connected me with members of association over in Columbus, Georgia, Atlanta area, and was able to provide resources that helped educate my family on what we needed to do to make sure that she had a good quality of life for the time that she had left, and how do we navigate this as a family to give her the best care and support.
Yeah, and I think, Ron, we've talked about this before, because you cannot talk about Alzheimer's enough. As a matter of fact, there's probably not a person on the planet that doesn't know of somebody who has Alzheimer's. Could be as intimate as your mom, could be just neighbor next door and all that. It's a leading cause of death in the United States, and I think that surprises people. I'm not sure why it would surprise people. But, listen, a lot of that comes with age, and there's some very positive things when we're living longer, and for the most part that's good, but Alzheimer's comes with it as well, and I know there's a lot of great stuff coming out, a lot of great research that's going into that is so critical. Why is this so important to you, Courtney?
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And Ron and I had the pleasure of talking about this in previous years, Mission Fed, and how we're kind of tied in. I think of Ron, you sharing your story previously that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you found out a lot about your maybe mother's decline from her employer at the time, right? So putting it into that context of how Mission Fed also got involved as an organization. I mean, Drew knows, and thankfully a lot of people know how community is so important to Mission Fed as a community credit union, but just all the great people that we have here. This is our 5th year partnering with the Alzheimer's Association of San Diego in Imperial counties on Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, which is June, and what we're in right now. And how Mission Fed got involved was polling our team and saying, hey, we're support a lot of different things in the community, but what is something that we should be doing that we're not supporting right now? And Alzheimer's and brain awareness and dementia awareness was top of that. And what we kind of uncovered from that was not only how many people, our colleagues, our board members, et cetera, were facing that in their own lives, whether it was personally or it was being a caregiver for a family member, and just how prevalent it was. But of course, it's not something that was obviously widely talked about. It's a stressful time on both sides, right, for families and the person that it's affecting. And it was just one way for us to jump in and help was by helping bring awareness to all these different things. I know I personally have learned so much over the last 5 years, and in that 5-year time, personally now also being touched by it in different parts of my own life, and just being able to come in that with a little bit of understanding from what we've learned, and at Mission Fed too, we every year that we do this, I hear from someone else new to me, maybe just another connection point where we've worked together, but I had no idea that they were facing something like this at home. But we just had a colleague the other day share with us that both of her parents have been experiencing Alzheimer's and kind of brain and cognitive decline. And so this one just continues to be near and dear to our hearts.
Well, listen, you guys have hundreds of thousands of members, okay? So obviously there's enough research out there that knows that when someone supports you, like you remember support Mission Fed, and to see Mission Fed support Alzheimer's is a great connection between the two. This is why I want to be with Mission Fed for that aspect of it. I think, Ron, another point, and certainly Stella, you can jump in on this. I'm not sure if you've experienced it at all in your family at this point. Maybe not. But there's 160,000 people that are caregivers that weren't trained to be caregivers. And I think that's never lost on me when we have the Alzheimer's Association on, is that, well, they have lives, but guess what? Their life is going to take care of whether mom or dad or brother or sister. And now they're dealing with something as tough as Alzheimer's and still running their own lives. Talk about that, Ron.
Yeah, no, you hit on a great point, Drew, and that's something that really goes unrecognized because, within San Diego County, Imperial County, we have about 60,000 patients that have been identified as having Alzheimer's or dementia. And of that, like you mentioned, 160,000 caregivers, and these are unpaid caregivers. And as Courtney alluded, a lot of these folks are in the workplace. We're part of this sandwich generation now. So we're tasked with raising our kids and then now finding that we have to raise our parents. And we're suffering in silence in the workplace because we have to care for our aging parents who have this cognitive decline. And we're unpaid. And we haven't been trained on how to care for someone who is dealing with dementia, how to deal with the mood swings, the mental decline and forgetting how to write a check, what we just said in a conversation. So there are certain challenges there that definitely do weigh on you as the caregiver. And a lot of times it goes unrecognized at work. There are performance issues. HR has to step in and try to find out what is actually going on. And, a lot of times, employees are afraid to talk about that or to feel as though that they're alone in this journey. And that's one of the places where the Alzheimer's Association can step in to help provide support networks for these employees and individuals who are dealing with this silently, and hopefully bring it out into the open, relieve the stigma, and identify support groups within the workspace as well as outside of the office.
Well, you hit something that's really important, and as Courtney knows, and her colleague Catalina and the whole Mission Fed team, been doing this show for 20 years, and one of the things we really focus on is mental health and so forth, or people have developmental challenges, and I hope I'm alive when that's not a stigma. I really do. Maybe I'm being a Pollyanna, which no one accuses me of a Pollyanna for that matter, Ron. But in this area of it, and the same thing with Alzheimer's. I mean, we should be way past the stigma size. It happens, okay? And if we don't address this head on, and maybe you can talk, before we go to break, you can talk a little bit about how important research is. I mean, it's the whole game, basically.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, Drew. The amount of research that goes on both within San Diego County and San Diego community, as well as nationwide and globally, has made tremendous progress in research, and now we have 2 FDA-approved drugs. We have blood biomarkers that enable individuals to go in and get tested to see whether or not they are prone to developing Alzheimer's or dementia, and then that enables to have a conversation with your primary care physician and or a neurologist to talk about what this really means for you and what steps you might need to take and help your family through this whole process. So I think it's helped us bring things to light, digest it, and come up with a game plan as we continue to get older, and then also better understand what can we do from a preventative aspect. And the key clinical trial was the U.S. Pointer study, which was a 2-year program that really looked at lifestyle changes and adaptations that we can do as individuals to help improve our brain health and minimize or reduce the risks of onset of dementia and or delay the progression of it. So, fantastic study, and what we find is that being active, getting engaged, healthy eating, exercise, being out in the community, being engaged with your community are all contributing factors for a reduction or delay of the onset.
Yeah, and again, it ties into something we were just chatting about with our friends at the Challenge Center and even Ride Out Loud. We know as the population ages, besides coming with Alzheimer's, is isolationism. That is absolutely a contributing factor as well in this area. When we come back from break, I want to certainly talk more about that aspect as well. I want to talk about the June 27 Caregiver Symposium, of course. And as you both know, that we always save time at the second half of the interview to what our listeners can do to support your efforts when we return with Ron Lewis, board chair for the Alzheimer's Association of San Diego, Imperial Chapter, joined by his colleague Courtney Pendleton, public relations and community manager for Mission Fed. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show. We are so proud to be the nation's longest running community podcast in our 20th year, brought to you by the incredible folks at Mission Fed Credit Union. We'll be right back after this short break.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg with Cloudcast Media. Listen to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. Always a great day, and we have the Alzheimer's Association of San Diego Imperial Chapter in the house. We got Ron Lewis, board chair of the organization, joined by his colleague Courtney Pendleton, public relations and community manager of Mission Fed Credit Union, who for the last 5 years, to say they're knee-deep involved in this would be an understatement. Honored to have as my guest co-host Stella Dillon. She is going to be an incoming sophomore at NYU, and she has a question for both of you.
Can you guys talk a little bit about the June 27th Caregiver Symposium?
Absolutely. So yeah, that's what's great about this month too. There's actually 20 free education programs being delivered throughout the month, and anybody can go find those at the website, which is alz.org/San Diego. But the end of the month on June 27th definitely is our third annual Caregiver Symposium. This is a completely free event. Myself and my colleague Catalina were lucky enough to attend it the last couple of years as well. Registration's required, but it is free, and it's just another great way for especially our caregivers to learn more about the resources that are available to them. But it's going to be 9 to noon at the Center for Creative Leadership by UC San Diego. And so basically, just again, it's going to be educating and equipping the family caregivers with those tools, the knowledge, confidence to navigate through the dementia caregiving journey, which Ron knows all too well. There's community educators that will be and clinicians that will be doing the sessions and discussing some of the latest in therapies and other research as well. And again, that's all at alz.org/San Diego.
Well, and it's like what we've talked about before, Ron, on the show, is that when somebody knows that there are people out there that have experienced this, you're not alone. We're going to be with you shoulder to shoulder. And there are going to be ups and downs. You brought up something that a lot of people don't realize. It never happened to my mom. My mom died at 95 years young and never got it. I'm not sure if she even had dementia, for God's sake, but, one of the things that you're keenly aware of are the mood swings you brought up, and that surprises people when, whoa, that's not the parent I grew up with. Talk about that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and I'd like to kind of touch on that not all
correct
dementia patients or Alzheimer patients go through the mood swings, because you're going to
correct.
see a spectrum of behavioral changes. My mom was a quiet one. She basically went into a shell. And then there are others that really start to rage. And one minute they're very happy, next minute they're completely angry. And so there's a manic aspect of it. And the challenge for us as the caregiver is, how do we manage those moods? And we have to remember not to take it personally, okay? It's not an attack on us as an individual. It's just how that person is dealing with the behavioral or mood changes within themselves, and they don't know how to manage or de-escalate those feelings within themselves, and so they just let it out. And so we have to be resilient as a caregiver and family members to understand that this is a part of the process and it's not personal. It can hurt sometimes, but if you have your network around you, they can help you manage your own personal feelings and your own emotional ups and downs as you navigate this crazy journey out.
Well, and the reason why I bring that up, I remember when Mom went into residential housing, and these guys are the greatest people in the world. I'll give a plug to them. They're called Britannia Lodge, and I said, you better be in business when I'm ready to go, and it could be at any time. They were amazing. They're out in Palm Desert where Mom lived. But there was a thing I was signing. It said you agree that if your mom becomes combative or X, Y, and Z, that we can dismiss her. And I go, what are you talking about? And it was the exact same. I didn't know about any of this. She goes, no, that it could happen, and that we just have to do that. And then I didn't realize that is a possibility. To your point, Ron, not everyone who has it gets into that, but it's someone that should be aware that if you're going to have your parent or whoever your loved one is, and they become this, they could certainly, and then you need to be have to deal with it and all that aspect of it. Talk a little bit about, and this is what I'd love to get Stella's opinion on this, because I talk to my daughter about this all the time, Sammy, is that it's so important for young folks to get engaged in this. Do you do outreach to maybe the college students and get them, listen, you may be in this role, not yourself having it, but helping out. Talk about it.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and something that I think really goes unrecognized or really engaged the younger population to understand what Alzheimer and dementia is. How do we educate our kids about what's happening to them, grandma and grandpa as they progress through dementia? We do outreach on the college campuses. I know UCSD, for example, has a sorority over there, and I'm drawing blank on the actual letters for the organization, but they have an active chapter that is always at our walks, and that is a great way to start the conversation, because as you educate our children or the Gen Z, Gen Y population, they'll understand how we navigate this. And that's probably one of the areas where I felt remiss in my journey is how do I explain this to my kids, and how do they deal with grandma who is dealing with Alzheimer's? Why is she always repeating herself? And so have them understand that these are some of the symptoms that she'll manifest, but how do they digest that? How do they process that whole journey along with their parents? And I think it's very important that we get younger population involved with it, college students, even high school students, so that they have a better understanding of what's actually happening in the family.
So I'll ask you, Stella, are you familiar with it? Have you come across folks in your orbit?
I have come across folks in my orbit, but I'm not I wasn't super involved in it. I did have more exposure to it when I did in high school, National Charity League. I did some work with Alzheimer's Association, but I haven't really seen it at all at NYU. I've only spent 1 year. It's a pretty big school, but I haven't really been exposed to it there at all yet, but I think that they should.
I think every campus should, for that matter, and in high schools, everywhere. You just have to be aware, because it's not going down, okay, in this area as well. So, Courtney, how do other organizations partner with Mission Fed to really elevate what's going on?
Yeah, no, and just the awareness piece that we're talking about, that was our catalyst to get involved in sponsor this Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month in particular, and keep that conversation going. So even the layers of which we're involved, we'll also be doing some of the community educators from the Alzheimer's Association team will be coming into our leadership meetings and sharing some of the great information that Ron was even sharing earlier about your own brain health and just the things that you can do to help slow any sort of future progression, and just keeping healthy and staying healthy. They're just good reminders for anybody to have, among all the other things of being a caregiver and just all these other awareness types of pieces. The Alzheimer's Association nationwide has done this campaign also about doing what you love to end alls, right? And so you basically kind of can choose your own adventure and how you could support the organization during this month, whether that be doing your own fundraisers individually. Maybe Stella brings it back to NYU and starts a club over there or something, right? But just doing what you love to bring that awareness and that attention. And again, we do that at Mission Fed this way during this month. But we also have extensions of, we do a Mission Fed team at the Walk for Alls in October. So there's a plug for that, and a save the date as another layer and way that people can, in the community, can support this important organization and cause.
Yeah, and I think, Alzheimer's doesn't know a date. They don't know a month. Yes, we'll celebrate it in June, and I think that's great. But guess what? August 13 is the same deal in this aspect of it. And I think just being so mindful of it. Ron, you brought up some great points. And of course, humans, being humans, don't always do the smart thing, as we all know. Probably shouldn't have 15,000, fast food items every single day and wonder why I'm having some issues with my heart, right? But there are things, and I imagine they're on the site, that we can all do. Courtney, you referred to it, and you did too, with just good brain health. Keeping yourself doesn't cost any money. Do little games or whatever. We know there's a ton of those things, and that stuff works, does it not?
It does, and you raise a good point, which ties directly into this "Do What You Love" campaign that the Alzheimer's has shifted to versus the longest day. Staying active, staying engaged is vitally important. You can do whatever it is that makes you happy, whether it's exercise, you love to cook, cooking right foods, getting out and exercising, engaging with your neighbors, doing a mahjong tournament, or having a crossword tournament, puzzle tournament, or something like that. Anything that exercises the brain and gets you active, it's really what's important. And I kicked off the month for Alzheimer's and Brain Health Awareness Month by hosting a bowling tournament over at the Mira Mesa Lanes, and we had about 20 bowlers come in.
Nice.
And it was all ages, families, just having a good time for 2 hours to bowl. And we were sore afterwards, but we definitely enjoyed, being out and just engaging with each other. And that keeps us young, keeps the mind moving. And, I think that's really part of the key to it, is staying active, keeping your brain engaged, as well as your hearing. And that's something that kind of goes overlooked as well. You talked about isolationism.
Right.
We have to stay aware of how well we're hearing, how our parents or our seniors are hearing, because that is part of engagement. Mm-hmm. Make sure that they're wearing their hearing aids. That's a plug for my wife and her occupation. So we want to make sure that they're engaged in the conversation and they have the tools that they need in order to keep their brain active. Give them puzzles, give them games to play with, and just having the conversation with them one-on-one or within the group setting, and direct questions directly at them, and that keeps them involved with the conversations. And this kind of brings me back to a story with my mom. Even though she, at a time when she was non-communicative, but she was still in the room, she was still engaged in the conversation. You would see her face light up. She'd point her finger at whoever was talking and nod her head when she agreed with what you were saying. Okay, so she was being involved, and as long as she could, even though she couldn't use words to do it, but her body language was speaking to us. And so that's why it's important that we keep the mind healthy, and as long as we can do it.
Well, you brought up something that is dear and dear to Courtney and Catalina's colleague, Neville Billamori, and that's joy. He put on a big symposium around joy. Our senior producer, Noah Brady, was up there. It was a great, cool thing to do it up in Encinitas, but actually contributed to one of his colleagues, and also a colleague of Charles Parisi, the founder and CEO of Cloudcast Media, helping this person, actually combat the cancer through joy. And the same thing on this aspect of it. And that sounds so obvious, but it unlocks all these endorphins and all this stuff. I don't even know what I'm talking about, for God's sake, which is 99% of the world, to be honest with you, in this. But it does in this area. I'll start with you on this, Courtney, and then pivot over to Ron. So, as you know, our Spotlight on the Community listeners are pretty engaged. They've been listening to this for 20 years. What can they do to support what you folks are doing at Mission Fed and the Alzheimer's Alzheimer's Association?
I mean, there's so many ways to get involved, right? And the Do What You Love campaign that the Alzheimer's Association is doing certainly enables you to truly do what you love to support. One of the things, I'll just plug it as donate. Donate to their cause. I mean, what they've been able to do and other similar organizations to it to help fund these other FDA, approved drugs and just other research behind it is really important. I had a recent conversation with Janet Hamada Kelly, who's the executive director and couldn't be with us today because she's traveling and doing so much work for this cause as well. But I had that curiosity question as just someone who's in community relations and a funder and whatnot, and been at some organizations that are national but have a local chapter, and kind of posed the question of what dollars, how many dollars stay in San Diego, to help support this or come back to San Diego. And I just loved her answer just because of how many biotech and other organizations that we have in San Diego, and just the involvement and the support, financial support, et cetera, that does come through, where we live in this great city that we live in. So I would just encourage anybody who can donate. Any amount works, and it stays and boomerangs back here to San Diego to our community to support.
Yeah, and then I'll say one more thing that you've heard me say ad nauseum, Courtney. Every dollar counts. You're not going to turn down Bill Gates' money, but everything. Just get engaged in this aspect of it. And Ron, on top of that, we talked about the volunteers. There can't be enough people out there helping support. Certainly, you want to look at your loved ones first, but even if you don't have a loved one that has Alzheimer's, just volunteering and getting out there and being an advocate goes a long way.
That's true. And actually, this is a great time for people to get involved as a community volunteer. We do offer the opportunity for people to come in, learn how to communicate to the community, educate them on Alzheimer's and dementia. We offer courses and support for you to basically come back into your own personal neighborhoods or go out to other communities to be able to send the message, provide support, the care and support program that we fund and support through the chapter and nationally as well. So you could also participate in clinical trials, being involved there, because the more data individuals we have, the more data we can generate and learn a lot more as the population ages. How is this impacting certain pockets, and particularly those from underrepresented groups? Get involved, be a part of a clinical trial, because we need to know how each ethnic group, each racial group responds to the medications that's out there, that's under development at some of the pharmaceutical companies and biotech companies across the country, how each population responds to these type of treatments. So get involved, volunteer as a community educator, come into the office, volunteer within the office and support services, and then also get involved in clinical trials.
Absolutely. What's the website?
Clinicaltrials.com. That's where you basically find any clinical trial related to dementia and Alzheimer's. You could also go to the USC Atria, the Alzheimer's research office here in San Diego. They have opportunities for you to get involved as well.
Right, and then this Alzheimer's website as a whole in San Diego, Imperial Chapter, has got so many. There's no excuse for you not to find something to be able to do on this. Ron, it's always good to see you, my friend. Thank you for just doing the phenomenal work that you're doing. Courtney, it's always a good day when you're on the other side of the mic over here, so thank you for doing that.
Thanks so much.
And to Stella Dillon, my goodness, first time out of the gate. And I talked to Stella earlier, because, well, I'm not so sure I want to do any co-hosting. I really want to follow Noah and watch all the producing he's doing. But Noah, as you can see, she didn't leave the co-host seat over here. You did a fine job. What are your thoughts on your first experience co-hosting a podcast?
Well, it's definitely something different. I've never done anything like this before, but I'm glad I did, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, you're very, very poised, and we appreciate you doing it. So we want to thank Mission Fed, as always, for having us sponsoring on the Spotlight Show. It's been a real honor for us to be working with this great group, and of course with all the wonderful organizations they support, like the Alzheimer's Association. And to our audience, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.